Everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I'm just going to do a few opening words, talk to you a little bit about the agenda, and then have the subcommittee members introduce themselves. And really, we're trying to reserve a significant amount of time for conversation. So we took this meeting outside of the formal halls of City Hall and City Council chambers, so we could set up the room in a way that we could discuss the proposals that are on the table right now and also get ideas about some additional or new proposals and have a quality conversation to take back and absorb and continue to do more work on. So we're expecting all of you to have, to be able to add your experiences and thoughts as we go through this process. My name is Eva Gladstein. I'm Deputy Managing Director for Health and Human Services, and I'm honored to be one of the 4 co-chairs of the City Council Special Committee. Councilman Dom has joined us, so we appreciate his interest and coming to hear what you have to say and learn from that. Councilwoman Maria Quinones Sanchez, unfortunately is not able to be here, but she's represented by staff as well. So I want to express appreciation. She's provided real leadership to this project. And certainly Council President Darrell who is the person who empowered all of this and all of us to get this work going, and it's really significant work, so we appreciate that. In case you haven't noticed, although we're holding this meeting in the auditorium of the Philadelphia Corporation for Aging, this will be recorded, streamed. There's a stenographer, Angela, did I get that right? Who'll be recording, so we will have all of the information captured today and available on City Council's website. So one of the things I do want to do is say our word of appreciation to the Corporation for Aging, and Ben Ellis is here representing. That's right, applause is good. To give us such a beautiful space in which to work this evening, as well as some refreshments to keep us going until you get home tonight. So refreshments are in the rear. Also in the rear is a resource table that you can go by if you haven't already and pick up materials at any point that you want to do that. So I'm gonna start first with a little piece of homework, because one of the things, there are 3 subcommittees. There's one on housing, and there's one on jobs and education, and then this committee, which is on the social safety net. And one of the first things that we had to do as a subcommittee was define what we meant by a social safety net, which is not the easiest thing in the world to do. So I want to share what our definition is so that can help guide our discussion going forward to this evening. So here you go. The Special Committee on Poverty Reduction and Prevention looks to improve the social safety net to safeguard every Philadelphian's access to health care, nutritious food, housing, and basic income supports. The social safety net is a collection of services and supports to ensure that all Philadelphians are healthy, have the basic building blocks for economic mobility, and are well positioned to thrive. And so I think, unlike the other subcommittees, we're looking at recommendations and proposals that can improve the quality of life for Philadelphians, particularly those with very low or no income. That may or may not help us meet the overarching goal of the special committee, which is quite ambitious, which is to help 100,000 individuals in Philadelphia move out of poverty by 2024. So it's a very ambitious goal. And for those of you who are students of this, the way the federal government counts poverty is based upon income. So it doesn't necessarily take into account other kinds of supports that we think are basic, such as access to food, health care, housing, et cetera. But this subcommittee is definitely looking at those additional supports as being necessary for people to have the building blocks and to be able to move out of poverty at some point, hopefully near time in their future and according to their own goals. So I'm going to stop talking for a minute before we get to the rest of our agenda and ask members of the subcommittee to introduce themselves. And I'll I'm going to start on this side of the room, and I hope most of you are sitting up front, but not all of you, and I'm looking at Ben.
Two. Well, okay. My name is Ben Ellis. I am Vice President of Business and Finance at Philadelphia Corporation for Aging.
Wherever. Go.
Hi everyone, my name is Jennifer Wolf and I am a policy analyst at the Pennsylvania Health Access Network.
Buenas tardes, my name is Wil Gonzales. I'm the Executive Director of SAVA.
Hi, Sharon Dietrich. I'm the Litigation Director at Community Legal Services.
Len Bergman, Executive Director at Phil Abundance.
Kathy?
Hi, Kathy Fisher, Policy Director at the Greater Philadelphia Coalition Against Hunger.
Pauline Abernathy, Benefits Data Trust.
Hi, I'm Kristen Romans from the Pew Charitable Trust.
This table, yeah.
Hi, my name is Deborah Robinson, and I'm a self-advocate. Also, I'm the executive director of a nonprofit called Speaking for Herself. I just joined the committee a couple of weeks ago.
Hi, Stephanie Scott, Department of Human Services, so Philadelphia County Assistance Office.
I'm Marva Williams. I'm a consultant with CEO.
I'm Carolyn Brown, Director of Planning and Evaluation with the Office of Community Empowerment and Opportunity.
All right, we got everybody? Did I miss anybody? Okay. So thank you again, and folks have on this subcommittee have worked really hard and are committed to continuing to work hard to kind of get this right. What we're presenting you tonight are a series of recommendations that we've kind of workshopped amongst ourselves, but we want to get your input and feedback, as well as hearing if you have additional ideas for other proposals around strengthening the social safety net. So the way we're going to work the agenda is we're going to have fairly brief presentations on 3 different groups of proposals. The first is called Removing Barriers, and you'll learn what that is in a minute. The second is about growing income, and the third is on benefits access. When those presentations are done, and we're going to try to ask you to hold questions unless it's for clarification. What we're going to do is you're sitting at a table and there's a card on the table telling you which of those sets of proposals we're going to discuss at that table. And we're going to give the opportunity for discussion with a facilitator and a record keeper for that discussion. And you'll have the opportunity to go to 2 tables and to address 2 of the topics this evening so you can have a full discussion. There's a table in the rear where if you want to present some new ideas, we'll also have staff there so that you can present those ideas for us to bring back to our subcommittee. And also, I think at every table there are sticky notes, and folks can feel free to write their ideas on the sticky notes, and we'll be putting them up on some newsprint sheets also on the rear wall so we can take that back and process that again. Is that clear to everybody? We'll be keeping time so you kind of know when the discussion is starting and when to move from one discussion table to a second discussion table. Okay, so with that, I'm going to ask Rachel Eisenberg and Sharon Dietrich to reveal to you what we mean by removing barriers.
I wanted to know if the committee has come up with an idea of what they consider poverty to be and where it started, either a family of 1 or a family of 4. What do they consider the poverty number to be?
We're using the federal poverty level definition, which one could debate whether or not that is fair, because it's been the same definition for decades and doesn't cover a lot of situations, including what the costs are in any particular area or other benefits that might be available. But in the city of Philadelphia, our poverty level was most recently determined by the federal government to be 24.5%, something under 400,000 individuals living under that federal poverty level. And for a family of four, it's about $25,000 plus or minus. I think many of us would argue that actually you need a much higher income to be able to move out of poverty in the city of Philadelphia. But for the purpose of tonight's discussion, that's the definition that we're using.
So good evening, everyone. Thank you to subcommittee members for having me to speak with you here today. My name is Rachel Eisenberg, and I'm the Director of Policy and Planning for the Managing Director's Office of Criminal Justice. And I'm here to just set a little bit of context around the relationship between the criminal justice system and poverty in the city of Philadelphia. So there's a joint recognition between the city and its criminal justice partner agencies that for far too long the criminal justice system has been overly punitive and has created barriers to reentry and economic prosperity that are damaging to both individuals and communities as a whole. Support is growing nationwide around criminal justice reform and reducing mass incarceration. In fact, this city has been engaged in a large-scale collaborative criminal justice reform effort since 2015 to reduce the size of the local jail population by 50% in 5 years. And to date, we've we've reduced the jail population by 40% and have been able to close one of the oldest and largest jail facilities in the city. So that was an incredible undertaking by both local criminal justice agencies and community members to jointly reform the system and create pathways out of the criminal justice system from the earliest instance. And so we're very proud of that, but there's still a lot more work to do. And so despite the progress that we've made, the criminal justice system continues to impact far too many people, and in ways that are life-altering and long-lasting. Nationally, 1 in 3 individuals in this country have criminal records. And here in Philadelphia, there are 35,000 people on local probation and parole, and 25,000 people that are admitted to our jails approximately in a given year. The collateral consequences of criminal records and incarceration are deeply felt by individuals and communities who are directly impacted, particularly communities of color and those who experience poverty. Criminal records put up barriers to employment, education, housing, and establishing other family and community supports. Incarceration and the disconnection that results from that only exacerbates those barriers. And a vast majority of people in the criminal justice system also experience poverty. We know that between 80 and 90% of the people charged with a crime in Philadelphia either have court-appointed counsel or public defender, meaning that they don't have the ability to afford an attorney. And the economic impacts of the system itself are astounding. From the earliest stages of the criminal justice process, an individual's ability to pay money bail impacts whether they are incarcerated pretrial. Court fines and fees are assessed in all cases, and supervision fees and diversionary program fees only add to the economic impacts of criminal justice involvement. And the ability to pay those fees impacts whether or not you're able to have your records sealed under clean slate, which is something that Sharon will discuss later. So we are working hard in Philadelphia to ensure that justice does not depend on people's financial situation, but there's a lot more to do. We look forward to working collaboratively with this committee and other stakeholders to ensure that the justice system is fair and equitable for everyone, regardless of your race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, or your ability to pay. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Again, I'm Sharon Dietrich. I brought some slides today to help me make my presentation. Now the trick will be to see whether I can actually show them to you. Yes, I can. Look at that. We're off to a promising start. So I'm with the employment unit at Community Legal Services, where we serve about 1,500 new clients a year. And of that 1,500 new clients, 1,000 of them come in about help with their criminal records, which is 2 out of 3. I think a really remarkable number. And primarily what they're looking for when they come in is they say, I want to get my record expunged. And it's pretty clear why they want that. They recognize that employers of background screening, housing providers, even educational institutions, and getting away from your record can be one of the key things you can do to quickly make a big difference in your life. So we worked on a law called Clean Slate that has gone into effect over the last year, and it basically does 2 things. The primary thing that I'll be talking about is that it makes it possible for a person to get their certain records, cleared even without having to find a lawyer or going to court. But instead, technology, in possible situations, seals up their record if they're eligible. And it applies to non-convictions. So, you had a case and it was dropped or you're found not guilty. It applies to what are called summary convictions, below a misdemeanor, if 10 years have gone by and you have paid off your fines and costs. And finally, it applies to misdemeanor convictions, if 10 years have gone by without you being convicted of another felony or misdemeanor and your fines and costs are paid. Now, so far, this has been an extraordinarily successful law as far as it's gone, because 31 million cases are on their way to being sealed automatically without a person needing a lawyer. In addition, Clean Slate made it possible for other things that were not previously able to be sealed, but you need a lawyer for them. Just so you know, though, like second-degree simple assault used to not be sealable, and now it is. So, so now, can I change the slide? Yes, I can. Okay. Thank you, Glenn. But as good as it is, with 31 million cases, our goal at CLS is to make this as broad as it can possibly be, because that is the beauty of this. The more people that we can do through automation, the more people can be helped by this. And there's certain things that are a problem with it being as broadly applicable as it could be. The first is the process only works when there's data in the system. And unfortunately, many cases in Philadelphia, especially the old cases from before 2006, do not have that grade in it, in the data. It doesn't say, was it a misdemeanor, was it a felony, was it a second-degree misdemeanor or a third-degree misdemeanor? And that's a problem, because if it doesn't say that, you can't get your case automatically sealed. The second thing is that if you owe court fines and costs on a case, that case is not going to be sealed. And that is a huge barrier for people, as you'll hear more about today. And finally, Pennsylvania is running behind a lot of states in that we do not allow any felony conviction to be sealed, no matter how old it is or anything that you've done to turn your life around. Excuse me. So particularly a lot of drug felonies are holding people back, but other types as well. And we're kind of behind the rest of the country. At least about 3/5 of the country now is allowing for felonies to be sealed. Indeed, Michigan is about to pass one of these clean slate laws for automatic sealing, allowing felonies to be automatically sealed. But we don't even have the right to file a petition to get such a case sealed. So our recommendations on clean slate to make it more effective are the following. First of all, we would like to see the courts help out the technology by putting some data in where it doesn't already exist. So those misdemeanor cases can be automatically sealed. So that is a labor-intensive thing, unfortunately, and some support, financial support from the state would help. But we would like to see the Philadelphia courts, which are interested, commit that they will try to get as many grades as possible in. So minor convictions like DUI or low-level theft or prostitution, whatnot, that go back 10 years are automatically sealed and those people can move forward. The second thing is we want to see the barrier of fines and costs eliminated. And obviously one way it could be eliminated is if we could eliminate fines and costs, and you'll hear more about that, and of course we would be supportive of that. But short of that, we would like to support a bill that Jordan Harris, who was the prime sponsor from Philadelphia, along with Senator Anthony Williams for Clean Slate. Jordan Harris, Representative Harris, has a House Bill 1540 that would say it's only if you owe restitution that you would be prohibited to get your misdemeanor or summary offense sealed. And most cases honestly do not involve restitution, so that would greatly increase the number of cases sealed. And finally, we want to see the General Assembly start to get with it and get those felony convictions eligible to be sealed as well. So those are our recommendations on Clean Slate. Just to let you know, if you're interested in this whole Clean Slate thing, a place for more information is a website that CLS runs called mycleanslatepa.com. Everything you want to know, I think, about Clean Slate will be available on that website. Or also, if you want to see whether the law is going to help you, you can go to an expungement clinic. If you're a low-income Philadelphian, you can come into CLS for our intake. We take new cases at our Center City office, 15th and Chestnut, every Monday through Friday from 9 to 12. And that's it for me. Thank you.
So that's what we mean by removing barriers. And again, that was kind of a hint of some of the other recommendations that are coming. So thank you, Rachel and Sharon. And again, when we get ready for small group discussions, if you're interested in learning more and providing input on this recommendation, just make sure you go to one of the tables where the placard says removing barriers. And next, which Will is going first? We have two Wills who are presenting together. Wil Gonzales is going first, and then Wil Hall from CEO.
Thank you, Eva. I mean, we're proof that where there's wills, there's ways, right? Thank you for coming to this important hearing and for inviting me to testify. My name is Wil Gonzales. I'm the Executive Director of SEBA. Local earned income tax credits make sense. The Earned Income Tax Credit, which is a federal program, is one of the most successful anti-poverty programs in the country. And to give you an example, if a family of four earning around $16,000 can get up to $6,431 in terms of a one-time boost at tax time. There's some issues in terms of making sure that everybody who's eligible to get that credit applies for it. And let me say that I'm so proud to be in Philadelphia where amazing efforts are being made by SEBA, the Campaign for Working Families, AARP, others, to make sure the Department of Revenue and others are doing their maximum to make sure that people apply for this federal tax credit. However, as we know, with the rate of poverty that we have in the city, that's not enough. And so having a Pennsylvania state earned income tax credit and a Philadelphia local city earned income tax credit is very helpful for poor families. There's numerous studies showing the value of both the federal EITC and also adding on to that state and local EITCs. You know, these EITCs help working families make ends meet. It keeps families working, and they reduce poverty, especially among children. The EITC has kept more children living above the poverty line than any other tax credit program. For example, in Montgomery County, Maryland, a local EITC decreased the probability of low birth weight babies by between 1.9% to 2.4% points among likely eligible mothers. Having a state, talking about Pennsylvania state, EITC is not crazy. 29 states plus the District of Columbia and Puerto Rico have their own version of the federal earned income tax credit. Let me first start because I know that they're recording this, and the acronym EITC is already being used in Pennsylvania for something else. Another tax credit program, believe it or not. But this particular EITC is used to give tax breaks to businesses who make qualified donations to scholarship, educational improvement, and kindergarten scholarships. So when I talk about the EITC in Pennsylvania, I'm really meaning the Earned Income Tax Credit. Another reason why it's important to have a state Earned Income Tax Credit is that in Pennsylvania, we have a significantly regressive tax system. What that means is that low-income families pay proportionately more in their taxes than higher income brackets. And Pennsylvania has a tax forgiveness program, but that doesn't incentivize work, and its benefits are limited to the amount of tax owed. And that is not helpful to those who pay little tax, including the lowest income working families, and many of those who are just entering the workforce. A state EITC is not that costly. To provide its own credit, Pennsylvania would only need to add one line item to its tax form. The calculations are straightforward. Most state earned income tax credit programs are set as a percentage of the federal income tax credit program. So basically, the state filers would simply multiply that percentage by the tax amount of their federal income tax credit to determine the amount of their state earned income tax credit. In most states, the state income tax credit is refundable, and this means that tax filers can claim the maximum value of the state tax credit even if that exceeds what they owe in tax liability. Pennsylvania is ready to have a state EITC. In 2009, the General Assembly's Joint State Government Commission researched the subject, put out a study, and said that it could provide an additional 10% of the federal earned income tax credit at a cost to the Commonwealth of $144 million. States with state earned income tax credits have very low administrative costs, typically less than 1%. Philadelphia is also ready, thanks to Councilman Dom and Councilwoman Maria Quinones Sanchez, to have a Philly local EITC. There's a bill currently in City Council, and I hope you can support that. I don't know if I can do advocacy here, but anyway. And there's a bill currently in City Council that is asking to put into effect a local earned income tax credit. Philadelphians need both a state and a local EITC. People who live in Philadelphia bear the highest tax burden of any metro area in the U.S., 18%. If the city leadership can be sensitive to the tax burdens borne by big business and take into consideration that to marshal out all-out efforts to implement tax cuts for businesses like Amazon and bring them to Philadelphia, then why can't we expect the city to have the capacity to find ways to implement a local EITC to help low-wage earning families stay in Philadelphia? If we're committed to equitable development, then we have to encourage workers to live in the city at the same time that we seek to encourage corporations to come to Philadelphia. The local EITC and a state EITC are good investments. They incentivize low-income individuals to work, and they have a multiplier effect. For every dollar in EITC or tax refunds that someone gets, you could say it's like a 15% investment in the businesses and the neighborhoods and the local economy. So we need both a local Philadelphia EITC and a state EITC in the arsenal of our Special Committee on Poverty Prevention and Reduction. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Bye-bye.
Good evening. My name is Wil Hall. I'm with the Office of Community Empowerment and Opportunity. I'm our Director of Financial Inclusion. And I want to talk a little bit about what the effects of some of the proposals around grown income would be for the clients that our services work with. So one of the things that I do in my role is administer our financial empowerment centers, which offer free one-on-one counseling to primarily low and moderate income Philadelphians. A lot of the folks who come in at a place of crisis. They're facing a utility shut-off or an eviction notice or something like that. And one of the first things, once we've dealt with the immediate threat, is work with the client to put together a crisis budget. This is a budget that meets their most basic needs and is balanced month to month. Unfortunately, a lot of the clients who come in don't have sufficient income to even put together a crisis budget. The model is supposed to grow folks from there to financial security to asset accumulation, but without sufficient income, we can't do that initial crisis budget. So one of the recommendations from the committee is an increase in TANF. For a family of 3, the proposed increase would phase in from $403 a month up to over $880 a month. With that extra $480 a month, our counselors can work with low-income individuals to put together a crisis budget, which has immediate stress-relieving effects and also greater security for the family, but also the long-term effects. And I believe the recommendation points to research around the effect it has on children as they're going to school to not be dealing with the most awful parts of living in poverty. Will talked a lot about the EITC proposals, gave another snapshot for that. Family of 4 making $32,000 who comes into our financial empowerment centers through these EITC proposals would see a tax refund of a little over $1,000 a year. I just wanted to give you an idea like what our counselors can help folks do with that extra money. Earlier this year, the state treasurer announced a Keystone for Scholars program, $100 put into an account for every child born after January 1st, 2019. And the treasurer estimates that if the family puts $25 into the account every month, by the time the child's ready to go to college, there'll be $10,000 in the account, which is great. Unfortunately, most of the clients we see don't have that extra $25 a month. This family of 4, through the EITC proposals, would have the $600 needed every year to match that, or I guess more than match, that money that the state's providing to help that family grow wealth so that college isn't just an idea, but is a actual goal for the 2 children living in this family. I used to be a bankruptcy attorney. When you go through bankruptcy, the IRS calculates how much you need for basic living expenses, and they give a family of 4 credit of about $516 a year for personal care and services. And as any of us know who have worked with folks who are low income, personal care and services is one of the first things to go when you can't meet your basic needs, which has adverse impacts not only on personal well-being but also job prospects and how much kids attain in school when they're not dressed appropriately. This $1,000 would meet that $516 need. That same IRS means testing gives a family of 4 a $260 allowance for out-of-pocket medical costs every month. Medical costs that are often foregone and lead to much higher cost future medical problems. This $1,000 credit would cover at least 4 of those months for this family of 4. These are just some of the things that our counselors run into in helping folks put together budgets as they come in, and why any of them would be very supportive of the EITC and the TANF recommendations. Thank you to the committee for the opportunity to talk about this, and I'll turn it back over to Eva.
Our third set of presentations are around improving access to benefits. And to discuss that, I'm not sure if Mitch or Pauline, Mitch Little from the Office of Community Empowerment and Opportunity will come up, and then Pauline Abernathy from Benefits Data Trust.
Good evening. Again, my name is Mitch Little. I'm the Executive Director of the Office of Community Empowerment and Opportunity, known as CEO. My office serves as the Community Action Agency for Philadelphia and is responsible for administering the Community Services Block Grant funding to help meet the needs and improve life conditions for thousands of Philadelphian residents living near and below the poverty line. Early on, as we developed our strategic approach to addressing poverty in Philadelphia, we made a determination that new programs and policies were needed to ensure that every eligible Philadelphian was able to easily apply for and receive all the public benefits to which they were entitled. By public benefit, we mean familiar programs such as the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, known as SNAP, or food stamps, cash assistance programs such as TANF, Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, LIHEAP, Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program, Medicaid, and many others. Why do some eligible households neglect access available for public benefit programs and resources? Well, we understand first and foremost that there is a lack of awareness. There are thousands of people in the city who are eligible for certain public benefits who don't even know that they're eligible. Seniors or people with limited English proficiency and students are examples of populations who are often unaware of existing benefits that they qualify for. Secondly, complexity of the application process. There are also thousands of people in Philadelphia who know about public benefits but face difficulty navigating complex applications and recertification processes. They wind up getting discouraged because of their applications gets repeatedly rejected, or have their case closed simply because a form they attempted to submit didn't go through. And they have to start the whole process over again from the beginning, a phenomenon known as the benefits churn. Oftentimes the question is asked, why is improving access to public benefits so important to addressing poverty? Well, when families living in poverty don't have access to public benefits that they are eligible for, they miss out on much needed assistance that can make the difference between having heat, food on their tables, access to some needed medical treatment, or even keeping a roof over their head. Why is the office began to investigate the Benephilly program 5 years ago? Well, Benephilly, which is run by our partners Benefit Data Trust, provides streamlined application assistance for 19 different publicly funded benefits. They do that through a network of coordinated Benephilly centers that enable residents to meet in person with enrollment specialists housed within trusted neighborhood organizations and provide direct one-on-one assistance with the applications. Residents who prefer to start the process by phone can access the hotline and go through a step-by-step intake process that will identify all the programs that they qualify for and get each application started. Since the launch of Benephilly, our agency has provided assistance to more than 50,000 applicants, resulting in over 25,000 confirmed enrollments and generating benefits valued at approximately $52 million. With all that success, though, there's still much more that's needed to improve benefits access for Philadelphians living below or near the poverty line. We need more coordinated access across agencies that serve vulnerable populations to ensure that nobody falls through the cracks. We also need to identify systemic improvements that will make it easier for applicants to confirm and document their eligibility for existing programs and to help reduce paperwork required to further streamline the process. The recommendations of the Social Safety Net Subcommittee that focuses on benefit access are designed to build on the progress that we made through Benephilly and similar programs by taking the next necessary steps to eliminate barriers and better integrate benefit enrollment activities throughout our social services network. Thank you for taking the time to let me share with you this evening about this very important work and the great strides that we're making across the city and the necessary need to make even more. With that, I'll invite Pauline up to talk a little bit more about the recommendations in greater detail.
Thank you, Mitch. I'm Pauline Abernathy with Benefits Data Trust. And as you just heard, thanks to the support of CEO, the state, private funders such as Pew, the United Way, and many others, it's now possible for people to go to organizations around the city, 25 different places, and get assistance being screened and applying for benefits all in one place rather than having to fill out multiple applications. Or they can simply call the hotline that Benefits Data Trust runs. It's a free hotline where you can do the entire screening and application over the phone, whichever people prefer. Our partners in this effort are Catholic Social Services, Campaign for Working Families, Esperanza, Impact Social Services Corporation, PASI, Philadelphia Fight, Project Home, CMAC, USIF, United Communities Southeast, Philadelphia, and others are places where you can go in person and get screened and assistance applying. Since Benephilly first started in 2008, over 110,000 Philadelphians have been enrolled in benefits worth over $330 million. But despite those huge numbers, there is so much more. We estimate, and there's a flyer in the back, that Philadelphians are leaving on the table each year $450 million in benefits for which they're eligible that they're not receiving. Those are all federal and state benefits that people are eligible for, including Medicaid, EITC, the Earned Income Tax Credit, WIC, SNAP, food assistance. And so this committee's recommendations is an opportunity to develop strategies to ensure that more people are getting those $450 million in benefits, the families who desperately need them. And so we've developed 3 sets of tentative recommendations that we would welcome your input on tonight as a way to do that. The first is to expand the number of locations where people can get screened and assistance applying for benefits in a streamlined way, where, again, currently you can get screened for up to 19 benefits at a time, and your answers go into the application so you don't have to keep providing the same information 19 times. It's just one set of questions, and it fills them out automatically. It submits the applications. The people in the Benephilly centers or on the hotline can help you provide documents if documents are needed to support your application, which sometimes is the case. So we have a tool called Community Prism that we provide to organizations, and it's currently in these 25 locations, including health centers, community schools, and nonprofits, where people, volunteers, or social workers can actually help screen people. We have a separate tool called Benefits Launch, where people can do a quick screen themselves in less than 10 minutes. One can just tell whether you're likely eligible for up to 19 benefits. And then it directs you to where you can get assistance applying if you want assistance. So either to the online application sites, or to an in-person location, or to the hotline. And then we can follow up with text messages to help you along the way if people get tripped up in the process. And also just a reminder to follow through on the next step. So our first recommendation is to provide those tools to more locations. In addition is to help support the financial empowerment centers that you just heard Wil talk about, so that they're available. Free one-on-one financial counseling is available in more locations around the city. Our second recommendation has to do with providing proactive, targeted outreach. Many people don't apply for benefits because they either don't know they exist or they don't know they're eligible. And so what we at Benefits Data Trust have been doing for years is we've been getting different lists to identify who is eligible and not participating, and we literally then mail or text or call all of the different ways to tell people using a trusted partner, either the state or a local nonprofit, to say, we think you're likely eligible for benefits. call us or go to this location and get assistance. And so our second recommendation is to do much more of that, whether it's done by BDT or a city agency or other nonprofits. It's to use the data that people already have to identify who is likely eligible and not receiving benefits, and then doing outreach. We know that just flyers alone don't tend to have much impact, but a personalized letter from a trusted entity that has clear action of where to go, research has been very clear, has a huge measurable impact. And then the other part of that recommendation is to really focus on particular populations like immigrant populations, students, returning citizens, others who we know are missing out on benefits, and to also not just help people enroll, but also help them do recertification. So each year often, or sometimes even more frequently than that, one has to provide additional information to keep a benefit. In New York City, we contact every participant in the SNAP program to remind them when it's time to renew their SNAP application, and then we provide text assistance with each step along the way. And so something similar could be done here, either by us or by others, to help people in a low-cost way make sure that they keep the benefits once they're on them. And the third and final recommendation is for the city-funded benefits, of which there are many, to help people with home repairs, property taxes, utility bills, and other things. Right now, those are all separate applications, often a paper application. And to instead move to a single application for city benefits and really move as much as we can towards automatic enrollment, that if you're in one benefit, that you can get enrolled in other benefits by simply providing consent. And so that's a place where more work needs to be done, but we're very interested, and the city is very interested in having a streamlined single application and portal. And so we need to identify what can be done currently, what might require some legislative change, but a tremendous amount can be done currently by just having a single application for multiple benefits. We look forward to getting your input.
Okay, it's almost time to break into small groups, but first we had the pleasure of having the council president, Darrell, in whose district we're sitting right now, here, right? And Councilman Alan Dom, who's provided leadership on a number of these issues, and I wanted to see if either of them wanted to say a few words.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank all of you for your ongoing, either long-term, short-term commitment. I know one of the things that we found out when we embarked on this initiative is that there were a lot of people in the city of Philadelphia doing a lot of great work, and I want to fully acknowledge that. We do not have the answer for everything, but we thought it was appropriate that members of council, Councilman Dom and other individuals that are working on this kind of be the conduit to move the needle forward in terms of pulling everybody together. We do have the ability to have a public hearing. We do have access to media, some of the other things that bring things to the forefront. So I want to thank all of you so much for what you've done and what I anticipate you'll be doing. Second of all, I want to thank the individuals, our co-chairs, Eva, Councilwoman Kiona Sanchez, Mel Wells, and Charmaine Matlock-Turner for their great work, and our subcommittee chairs. I know Councilman Dom is on one of the subcommittees for all the great work. Bottom line is, this is about our moonshot, and we called it that because it was a documentary on a long time ago. People said, well, we're going to figure out how to go to the moon back in the old days. Some of you all in here weren't even born as I look around the room, right? But the simple reality is everybody thought it was something that would never be achieved, but everybody pulled together. People said, we're going to do this. And believe it or not, we made it to the moon, right? So we're saying that we can take this below 20% in terms of the poverty rate, and if we all pull together, guess what? We're going to get it done, right? So I just want to say thank you for your support. We're going to do everything we have to do, identifying this particular component, benefits. We can get $250 million. Insert that into our economy on a local level. It will make not only more significant, measurable impact on individuals' lives, but it will actually make an impact on the city of Philadelphia. So just want to say thank you all. Continue the awesome work. We look forward to working with you on a long-term basis. Thank you. All right.
Good evening, everyone. I also want to echo Council President Clark. And by the way, this is Council President Clark's mission. And I'm standing with him 100% on this to get this poverty down to 20%. And we have to do it. We have 4 years, I think he gave us, right? 4 years. 4 years. So let me just say a few things. I saw Mitch and I saw Pauline and Will, thank you for your comments too. And Evie doing a great job. That Benefits Data Trust, I have the chart because I carry it in my pocket actually, this chart, okay? That tells us there's $450 million. Let me repeat that. $450 million of federal money that doesn't come back to our residents. That's our number one goal. We should probably be inserting this in every water and sewer bill, every real estate tax bill, every PGW, every electric bill, every way we can to get the word out. This is money taken out of our federal withholding tax that's not coming back to our residents who need it. So whatever we can do to expand this, I know that Eva's been a big supporter of, she's told me a lot about the EITC, but whatever we can do to expand this, we need to do. And then I just want to talk briefly about a bill that we passed out of Finance Committee, and Will refer to it. It has to do with the fact that of the top 50 cities in the country, sadly and embarrassingly, Philadelphia taxes its lower income people the highest. And what Will's referring to is for a $25,000 income, we tax people at 18.1%, and almost every other city, it's 7 to 14. So the bill that we put forth basically will reimburse wage taxes for lower income people. It will affect 60,000 households, potentially 90 to 100,000 people. Average refund could be $500 to $800 today. In 2024, because of the ability for the pica to burn off, it could go up to $1,300. So it's a start. It's not a finish, but it's a start, and we need to improve on doing more like that. So thank you for everyone being here, and thank you for all your support. And this is the most important goal in our minds in council, to get this accomplished. Thank you.
Okay, so I know the room is a little warm and folks have been sitting for an hour. So now is your opportunity, right? We're going to give you the opportunity to talk for about 20 minutes around the set of proposals that you heard. Removing barriers, which primarily focused around criminal justice issues, right? Growing income, which we heard about EITC and potentially increasing the size of the TANF grant, just as reminders. And then benefits access, which you just heard about. Each table, I believe, has a placard saying what the conversation is going to be focused on. And if you're at the right table, that's great. If you're not, move to a table that you want to be at. We'll give you about 20 minutes, and we'll have somebody at the table who's going to ask you some key questions about the proposals and what else you'd like to suggest or input that you want to give us about those recommendations. And then we'll call time and give you the ability to get up and move and have a second conversation before we end this evening. There's a table. Mitch, raise your hand. I think it's that. Am I right? That's the table? One more? One over. Okay. There's a table next to the water bottles, right? Oh, where Rob is, sorry. That table, if you want to recommend other suggestions and other proposals for this committee to review, we encourage you to go to that table. Rob is there because he already has one such proposal that he's shared with us around backwater bills for Philadelphians. All right, time to get up and move around a little bit and choose a table you want to be at. Thank you, everybody. The level of conversation and energy in the room has been really high. I think we're going to do a really, really quick report out, kind of rapid, lightning speed. I know it's warm in the room. Just like one idea that was discussed at each table, and Carolyn, since you're looking at me, I'll ask about your table first, and we'll just go around. Does anybody have the portable mic?
Check one,
Let's
two.
wait 1 minute, Carolyn. No, wait till you have the mic.
So I just want to quickly read two, and it'll be really short. They both have to do with process and how we move forward once this meeting ends. The first was to create an inclusive process to continue to allow members of the public to offer feedback on these recommendations, so that this isn't just a one-shot, opportunity to have conversations, and also to have more planning and communication at the grassroots level, and in particular to engage networks of trust. So that's involving family, friends, block captains, people who know what's going on in the community, know what the needs are, and have insight on how to meet the needs. There needs to be more of that.
Thank you. And we can talk a little bit about what some of the next steps are when we're done. Can you hand it to Sharon?
Thank you. Since I only get to put forward one idea, is it one total or one at this time?
If you could state your name.
Oh, sorry, Sharon Dietrich, Community Legal Services. So I'm assuming that I only get to put forward one idea, so I'll put forward, we discussed ways to eliminate court fines and costs and why it's so important that people get threatening letters telling them pay lots of money in 30 days or you're going to go back to jail. Although that was not Philadelphia County, but that certainly happens to Philadelphians who've been in other places. And some of the ideas that we talked about were community service as an alternative to having to pay money that you don't have. Amnesty, potentially, for back fines and costs, and educating the state legislature on these issues.
Great, thank you. Let's go to this table over here. I'm not sure who's gonna, great, thank you.
Hi, my name is Jennifer. I'm with the Pennsylvania Health Access Network, and we combine tables for the second one, so I'll go over our first and second idea, and then maybe one of you can talk about your first ideas. So we were with the growing income table, and we had a very high level of agreement on that people need more income, which is kind of an obvious statement to have, but it was worth saying anyway. So we talked about how to maybe increase TANF. We talked about bringing a general assistance type program or a universal basic income. We're putting that back on the table to increase the amount of income that folks have in Pennsylvania or in Philadelphia, whether or not they are at a certain percentage of the poverty level. And then we also talked about an idea that's advocacy a little bit at the federal level, but could also be brought to the state or local level, the American Families Act, which is somewhat like an EITC type program, but it really helps out families with children and making sure that they have income to take care of themselves and their families.
Great, thank you. Anything else?
Justine, do you want to? Hi, I'm Justine Sawyer, and I'm part of Women United of Greater Philadelphia. A couple additional elements that we discussed during growing income was the element of really savings and investing. So we all understand that, this is a great element, is to have more money, but we need to really educate and think about ways to really increase what we're receiving for individuals who are definitely in need. So part of the conversation was, what if we had different savings and investment accounts, if certain tax credits, like 2% or 5% of that was allocated into a savings and invested for you, and you could take it out at, say, when an individual family member is a beneficiary, turns 18, they could take it and spend it on college. Or certain countries in Europe, they have savings and investment accounts for children who are born into poverty or whatever that may look like. They allocate $2,000. It's invested over X amount of years, and they could pull it and use it for secondary education or whatever that may look like. So we're being more proactive about how we're spending and educating those individuals in our community versus just giving them a certain tax allotment. So that was part of our conversation.
Great, thank you. So let's start talking about benefits here in this row, right? Is that Kathy?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm really going to bootstrap.
Identify yourself.
Oh, sorry. Kathy Fisher, Coalition Against Hunger. And I'm going to echo the other group mentioned more grassroots and individuals with lived experience should be involved in providing comments and the messaging. So such as discussing where benefit sites could be located near transit hubs, the challenges to even affording getting a birth certificate or affording SEPTA fare to go get documents that are needed, tracking those down, and then also their input on messaging and outreach that's focus group tested and really is going to speak to the people that need access to the benefits the most.
Great, thank you. And this table, benefits access, an additional idea?
Very similar, talking about making sure that information is getting out into the neighborhoods where people live. One idea was electronic signs at SEPTA places, around a lot of issues around transportation barriers for people with disabilities and others, and the importance of phone assistance so that people don't need to travel.
Great, thank you. And now we're in removing barriers.
Hi, I'm Kristen Romans from the Pew Charitable Trust. At our table, we actually talked about removing barriers, and then we talked about benefits access, so we'll do one on each. Removing barriers, we, in general, talked about the recommendations as being positive to help people who are really stuck to be able to move forward. Decreasing fines was a huge need. But at the same time, we also recognize that expungement or sealing records happens after 10 years without a conviction, and to get people to 10 years is a really big deal. So the need for work while still incarcerated and transitioning out of incarceration to make these meaningful, we got to do something for those 10 years.
Great.
And I'm Frances Hess. I'm supporting this effort through the Managing Director's Office. A lot of the things that were mentioned before were also talked about here. One thing that was interesting was really the emphasis on making sure that the information is where people already congregate, so whether it be food banks or where people get clothing or other services that they know, and for people who are seniors or disabilities, even doing a door-to-door or partnering with people that are already doing those services.
Great, thank you. Will, do you have any more from your table?
Yeah, so the folks at our table, I'm Wil Hall, I'm from the Office of Community Empowerment and Opportunity. The folks at our table, who are not here anymore, were really supportive of the clean slate and the fines and fees recommendations, and only pointed out that both of those things focus on post-incarceration time for folks and some more things that are pre and preventative or expanded diversion. There were a lot of things that got thrown around.
Great, thank you. So has every table given us at least one? Yeah? Kathleen, seeing if anybody else. Okay. So I just really want to thank everybody because this was really great work and there was a lot of input. It sounds like there were some themes in terms of our process for getting input, making sure about accessibility, be at the community and family level, to think kind of more upstream, right? So giving people information about their rights and access to supports and services, not after the event, but during and before to the extent that we can. And a lot of great advocacy ideas for at least the state level, things that we can control. So we really appreciate that. I just want to speak for a minute about next steps, which just to make sure everybody is aware. So we have been on camera this evening and on tape and being recorded, which means a number of other people are going to be able to see this and hear about it on channel 64, and I'm not sure if you have FiOS, what it is, right? 63, something like that. So I'm not quite sure, but it'll probably be played a number of times. I know that they often do that. If you have access to the internet, it's on City Council's website. including like the actual notes, and that's phila.gov/council. And on that, I just want to make sure everybody's aware, there's a form you can fill in with as much information as you want to share if you have additional or new ideas. So that there is an ongoing way for people to provide input. If this stimulated your thinking or you want to talk to your neighbor or family member, please use those avenues. In addition, there will be a final hearing of the big committee, which is a composition of all of these subcommittees in December. Do we have a date for that final hearing? Is it December 10th? I'm not sure. We're still thinking through when that final hearing will be. So there'll be one more hearing or gathering, which will be in City Hall for that purpose. In terms of the notes that we have this evening, we have notes that people took diligently at each table that we will be collecting, summarizing, and we will be making those available as well. And then there are a number of Post-its I was happy to see about new ideas. So not only the ideas discussed at this table, but there are some that are tacked up that are really pretty interesting on the back wall that we'll be taking back to our committee. Did everybody sign in when they came in this evening? So we have your contact information.
The purpose of the hearing is to develop the ideas towards a bill or a set of bills. What's the purpose of that final hearing?
So the final report, so there'll be a final hearing and then a report, and we're anticipating that there will be short, medium, and long-term recommendations. Some will be around city council legislation. Some may be about funding something that's great but should be expanded. And some will be around advocacy, particularly at the state or federal level. So we're looking for the report to include all of those. And I think you've heard tonight that we have recommendations that fit in all those categories, because places where work is being done well, but we just need to scale it up and make sure it's more available. Work that might require some legislative fixes, and work that might require some advocacy, for example, restoring general assistance at the state level, or amplifying the impact of the Clean Slate Law at the state level. So we have recommendations that fit in all those categories, and the final report should do that. The final report, I know this is a little frustrating because people also had great ideas about education, jobs, and housing. So there are other subcommittees that are addressing that, and their hearings are coming down the pike. One is on November 25th, I'm forgetting which one, and one is on December 5th, I believe. Eric's going to get up here and tell us what's what. So we want to also encourage people to attend those. So.
Hi everyone, my name is Eric Bodson from Councilman Sanchez's office. Thank you to the Other Ideas group for your support. The upcoming hearings for the Housing Subcommittee, the hearing is next Monday from 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock. That is at Temple School of Medicine, which is at 3500 North Broad Street. All this information is on a flyer at the back, which we'll make sure we hand out as we leave. And it's being held up right now in the middle of the room. That is the Housing Subcommittee hearing. And then there's a hearing on jobs and education strategies to reduce and prevent poverty. That hearing is on Thursday, December the 5th from 4 to 6 p.m. at Dobbins High School on Lehigh Avenue. And again, all of that information is available on a flyer, which is being held up in the middle of the room, and which is available on that back table.
Great, thank you, Eric. So now I just want everybody to give themselves a round of applause for working hard. And to the subcommittee members and the staff who helped prepare the agenda, facilitate the conversations, and take the notes, we really appreciate all of that. It's what makes for a smooth running meeting. So I didn't do that. A lot of other people did that, so I want them to get credit for it. And with that, thank you. But make sure you pick up materials at the resource table before you walk out if you haven't. Thank you all.